this video is going to be very short. I'm going to try to keep it around 2 minutes, but it's a very important topic. It's about judging others. You have Christians that believe that you should never judge. You have non-Christians that believe that you should never judge. But forget what people think. What does God say about this? So before I give my quick thoughts on this topic, I want to read what Jesus has to say about this in these 5 verses, starting in Matthew 7, verse 1 through 5. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. That's crucial right there, right? So Jesus is telling you to judge, but he's also telling you not to judge. And that may sound like a contradiction, but it's not, because he explains it. He says you shouldn't judge hypocritically. So let's say you're a bank robber and you're telling other bank robbers, hey, you're dishonoring God. You need to stop robbing banks. Like, what are you talking about? Maybe you should stop robbing banks first. Repent, cleanse your hands, you sinners, like the book of James talks about, and purify your heart, you double-minded. And then you should be able to preach to other bank robbers to tell them to stop, right? Because at that point, you're not doing it from a hypocritical point of view because you repented for those sins, right? So the question then becomes, is it always wrong to tell someone to stop robbing banks? No, of course not, right? You're going to make a righteous judgment. You're going to tell that person, hey, you shouldn't rob banks because that's not okay. But the crazy thing is, you would have Christians that would hear that statement and say, oh, you're judging, you should never judge. I'm like, what are you talking about? That goes against everything Jesus just said. He says, before you take the speck out of your brother's eye, in other words, before you tell him about his sin, take the log out of your own eyes. In other words, take the sin out of your own life before you approach your brother about that sin. So he's telling you to judge. He's telling you to do it righteously, though. I always find it amazing that Christians behave like that sometimes. I expect that from non-believers, right? That's to be expected. That doesn't shock me at all. But it always, if I'm honest, it kind of annoys me a little bit, because you have people preaching the gospel and their heart is in the right place and they're making an effort to reach out to the lost world. But yet some people would say, judge not. I'm like, why is that the first thing that comes to your mind? That has nothing to do with the context of what the person is saying at all. You don't know this person's heart, right? Could they be a hypocrite? Sure, right? But you would have to know that person to actually tell them to judge not, to make that full statement with confidence. So I would encourage everybody out there to judge righteously. There is a time and a place for that. But if you're judging hypocritically, like Jesus says, do not do it.